What's going on YouTube? So as you know, crossovers and SUVs remain extremely popular here in the US, which is why brands are offering more different size variations than ever before. 2022 is going to be a big year for SUVs in Honda's lineup, and the excitement starts with this all-new 2023 HR-V. This is the smallest crossover in the lineup, but it's growing larger physically, as well as moving more upscale in terms of design and equipment. Honda invited us out to beautiful Washington State to sample this all-new HR-V. So without wasting any time, let's go ahead and dive right in and see if this is better than all the competition. All right, so let's get things started here by talking about the exterior design of this all-new HR-V. Obviously, as you can tell, it does not really look like the previous generation of the HR-V at all, and that's because things have become really a lot more mature and sophisticated in terms of the overall design. And you can also see some influence from the latest Honda products, such as the Honda Civic. So up here in the front, one of the things you'll notice is actually 2.6 inches wider than the previous generation, giving it a larger SUV appearance. And then in terms of your grille, it has a very simple shape to it. So you just kind of have this somewhat trapezoidal shape to it. You're gonna have different finishes in this. So this is the kind of mesh finish, but you also have a wave texture if you choose the sport trim level. And also here on the EXL trim level, you're gonna notice everything's gonna be finished in a gloss black in the grille, as well as all these lower elements, just to give it a little bit more of a premium touch for this top end trim level. Now as we come over here to our headlights, you're also gonna see that these are standard full LED headlights. So you have the reflector low and high beams through there. You have a really bright daytime running light, as well as an LED turn signal indicator, again across every single trim level. However, you're not gonna find any fog lamps on any of the models. Now moving on from the front design, we next come to our wheels. So you do have 3 different wheels for the 3 different trim levels of this new HR-V. You're gonna have 17-inch alloys for your LX, as well as this top-end EXL. On this specific model, of course, these are gonna be a little nicer, so you have the contrast design and the shark gray accents throughout. However, actually the nicest wheels of the bunch come on the HR-V Sport. Those are gonna be upsized to 18-inch alloys, and those are gonna be finished in a gloss black color. And as we move on up here to the mirrors, if you had that Sport, you would have the gloss black finish across the top. However, so long as you choose the Sport or the EXL trim level, that's where you're going to get heating, as well as a brand new feature for the HR-V, blind spot monitoring. So if you remember the previous generation, you couldn't get that feature. Instead, you had that camera that was just on the right side. Well, that's gonna be gone for this new generation. Instead, you have blind spot monitoring, which applies, of course, to both sides.
All right guys, so let's go ahead and talk about the side of this HR-V, because you probably noticed this is a completely different look than the previous generation model. So in terms of the length, let's talk about that first. We're looking at 179.8 inches in overall length, which is up 8.7 inches over the previous generation HR-V, which really just makes it look more SUV-like and more mature, like we mentioned in the front, and as we'll mention in the back. This is a much more mature looking design. Part of that also has to do with the fact that we have the door handles right here instead of like the hidden door handles up here. I think this looks a lot better, a lot more SUV-like. I also want to point out one more thing. All of your wheel arches for the EXL model are going to be this nice shiny black. They would be matte on the other 2 trim levels, and all of your window surrounds as well. Now, coming around to the rear design of the HR-V, I really like the way this looks. I was very impressed with it at our studio shoot, which we did about a month ago. We had a very small amount of time with it, and I really liked it. And I have to say, in person, it looks really great too. So you have some classy elements here. We have our Honda badge right here. Our wiper is exposed. And then my favorite element though has got to be these taillights, because these are full LED taillights. I like the shaping of them, and it is actually standard equipment on every single model to have the full LED componentry. And honestly, a lot of luxury cars don't have taillights half as nice as this HR-V. Now, if we drop down below, we do have some more shiny black material for the EXL trim level, some chrome at the very bottom. You'll notice no exposed exhaust outlet because you have to get the Sport model to get that. And if you're buying a Honda HR-V, the safety information and warranty are going to be very important to you. So let's go ahead and discuss that. So for your safety systems, you're going to be very pleasantly surprised because you're going to get every single one of them as standard equipment on the HR-V. So that's going to include forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, auto high beam headlamps, and adaptive cruise control with a traffic jam assist. So yeah, you heard me right, on a base LX HR-V, you're gonna have adaptive cruise with traffic jam assist. That's pretty phenomenal. Now, in addition to that, for your warranty, you're looking at 3-year, 36,000 mile basic warranty, 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain warranty, which is a standard affair for Honda, no complimentary maintenance. Well guys, that wraps up the HR-V on the outside. Now let's go ahead and hop into the interior before we take it out on a test drive on these beautiful roads.
So walking up to this new HR-V, you do have a smart entry system with remote start if you choose the sport trim or above. And then getting inside, just grab behind the handle. You guys get a quick look at the interior and we'll hop inside here. Let's go ahead and first talk about our different material and color choices. So for the seats, you are going to have a cloth seat on the LX and the Sport trim level. And then when you get to the EXL, which is what we have today, that's where you're going to get this leather seat. As you can see, it has a nice perforated design here. We've got some color contrast stitching that runs down the middle as well as along the sides. And the seats themselves are quite comfortable and pretty squishy. The bolstering here is pretty decent as well. Now, in terms of the color choices, you do have the choice between black or gray for both this model as well as the LX trim level. And then the Sport model is going to be locked into just black, but it's going to have some special orange contrast stitching throughout the cabin. Now, as we turn over here to the seat controls, you're going to find an 8-way power adjusting seat. Does not have lumbar support, and that's going to be included on this EXL trim level. The other models will have a manual seat. But let's go ahead and talk cabin materials in general, because this is one of the areas where we see a big improvement for this new generation of the HR-V. So over here on our door trim, we do have a nice leather material with stitching details that run all through there. This middle part is going to be hard touch, but the top is going to be soft touch. And this same material is going to continue across the entire upper dash, even these far away places to reach. As we come down, this is where you're going to find a nice leatherette that covers all of the center area with stitching detail again. And then we do have a single vent effect, which is very similar to what you find in the Honda Civic. I really like the way this looks, very nice and classy and kind of like Audi-esque. And then as we come down to the lower panels, I'm happy to see this is also going to be covered in leatherette with the stitching details, and it's nice and padded for your knee to bump against. And then as I hit this, I do notice how solid everything feels in typical Honda fashion. No creaks, rattles, or panel gaps. And then to start it up, press the standard push button start. And as soon as we start up this new HR-V, we notice some of the new tech features on board. And one of those things is the fact that we have a 7-inch reconfigurable gauge cluster here. So it's a little hard to tell actually, but this side is a screen. And this side is actually analog, as we've seen in some of the past Hondas. And you can click the little home button on the steering wheel and use the scroll wheel to customize this to whatever type of information you like to have there in the middle, including some navigation stuff. Now as we pull back here to the steering wheel, we do have the newest Honda design. It's going to be nicely leather wrapped on the Sport trim level and up with the color contrast stitching and the piano black accents. As far as the wheel itself, it is going to be manual tilt and telescoping across all of the models, and steering wheel heating is not currently available. But even though HR-V has always been a small crossover, it's also known for having a lot of storage. So let's see if this next generation is up to snuff. So opening up our center console here, that's what that looks like. As you can see, plenty of space inside. There's a little lining down there at the bottom. It's a great place to store a cookie, a $5 bill, and of course your coupons. Can't forget about those. And we stick those in, it's no problem whatsoever. But that's definitely not all the storage we have on board. So one of the really unique aspects of this new design is this kind of floating console here. So as you can see, we have this panel which contains our drive modes, our hill descent control, electronic parking brake, and brake hold, but we still have the storage underneath of it, so you can stick something small down here, like a cell phone or something like that, and then we have a USB port on both sides of that. As we continue on though, you still have your 2 cup holders, and you have another large area here. This is a wireless phone charging pad on the EXL trim level, and then you have the 3rd USB port up here in the front. So I definitely like how many choices you have in terms of storage as well as connections. Now as we pull back here and take a look at our shifter, you'll notice this is a traditional style shifter. Some of the more recent Hondas have actually been push button style, so a lot of you guys will be happy to see you just pull back for drive, go back again if you want to go into the sport mode, go back again if you want to go into a low transmission mode. And then when we head into reverse, you will find the standard backup camera. It's multi-angle, and we have trajectory that's going to be included on all of the models. And you do also have front and rear parking sensors on the fully loaded EXL. Now taking a look above that, we'll go to our climate controls next. So you do have standard single zone automatic climate on 2 of the trim levels, the lower 2, and then the EXL model will come with this dual zone automatic climate setup. Obviously, you just adjust the temperature up and down like so. Just like with the Civic and the Accord and many other Hondas, these buttons are really nice and high quality. I love how clicky they sound. It's pretty rewarding to actually twist them, which is kind of strange to say, but they are really nice buttons. Off to the side of that, we do have our 3-stage heated seats. That's going to be included on both the Sport and the EXL trim levels. And let's go ahead and rise on up here to our audio systems. So you do have several different setups in terms of audio. None of them are branded though, so even the EXL trim level, it's not branded like the Civic, but maybe in the future if we add a touring trim level to this HRV, maybe that will get a Bose sound system, for example. But here on the EXL we have 8 speakers, it goes down to 6 and 4 speakers respectively on the Sport and LX. But let's go ahead and give this one a sample. Yeah, so overall sound quality is actually quite nice. Of course, like I said, it's not a branded sound system, but this is more than adequate for this size of vehicle, and the bass is pretty nice as well. Okay, so let's get into one of the biggest upgrades for this cabin versus the previous generation, and that's in terms of technology and this display. So what we've got on board on this specific example today is the 9-inch display. So this is going to be included on just the EXL trim level. The other 2 trim levels, those are going to come with a 7-inch display. But regardless, you're going to have this tablet style setup which kind of pokes out of the dashboard, and the latest version of the Honda Link software, which of course is a big improvement over the old version. Really the most important things to know about the difference between the 7 and 9-inch display is the fact that the 9-inch display has wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay, whereas if you have the 7-inch display on the lower 2 trim levels, those will be a wired connection. And then this is what the regular version of the software is once you get out of the wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay interface. Rising above that, we have our frameless auto-dimming mirror. No HomeLink universal remotes are built into this one though. That's on the EXL trim level, and also on the EXL trim level is this power sunroof. Of course, this is just going to be a traditional size unit. As you expect for this class, pretty much nothing has a panoramic sized one, but it does open up, it does have a sunshade, and you also have the wind buffer.
All right, guys, come on back here in the all-new HRV's rear seat. Now, of course, this is a Honda SUV, and even though this is their entry point into the SUV lineup, they do still need to have a lot of space and a lot of practicality back here. And I'm happy to say with this all-new generation, you're going to keep a lot of the strong elements that the previous version of the HRV had. So let's go ahead and discuss the space first. So we're looking at 37.7 inches of rear legroom, 38 inches of headroom, which is actually a little bit smaller than the previous generation HRV, so it's a little bit of a step back in terms of the amount of space. However, this is still one of the very largest options in the segment. I mean, as you can see, I'm 5'9", Drew's 5'8". I still have, I'd say, 8 inches or so of legroom, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat. So certainly very comfortable back here, and you could easily fit 3 people, no problems. Now, as far as the features are concerned, this is a fully loaded EXL model for now. And we're not going to have anything right here, no vents. This is a little storage cubby, I guess. You would also see no USB ports. It looks like there's even a cutout for maybe some USB ports, but it's not on this model. I also want to point out, no center armrest, even on this fully loaded EXL. Looking at your door trim, it's going to be made of hard touch plastics for the vast majority of it. We do have a nice leather wrapped armrest, and then a little bit of bottle storage down below. Now let's go ahead and walk up to the tailgate area. Now this of course is a very important part, so let's go ahead and check that out. No power tailgate on any HRV, so you will have to just lift it up. Definitely not a problem. It's not heavy or anything. Now, as far as the space is concerned, let's talk about that. 24.4 cubic feet behind the second row seats. As a maximum, we're looking at 55.1 cubic feet with the seats folded down. Now, if you're really good with your numbers, you might realize that that's actually a little bit less than the previous generation HRV. It's down around 3.7 cubic feet over that previous model in terms of maximum capacity. So once again, a little bit smaller than the previous gen. However, it's still one of the largest ones in the segment. 55 cubic feet is a good amount of space for anything in this segment. Now, as far as the seats, they do fold 60-40 split. As you can see, they do fold completely flat with the floor. You will notice that we are no longer having Honda's Magic seats, but they do fold nice and flat. And then as far as other finishings back here, we have LED lighting on the side. I was trying to blow this bag out of the trunk here. 12-volt outlet, and then if we lift up the floor, there's a little bit of extra underfloor storage there. And if we lift that up, there's a spare tire. Passenger seat is going to be manually adjusting for every single HRV. And then as far as the glove box, let's pop that baby open. Inside, you're going to find a good sized glove box. It's not massive, but it is about what I would expect out of anything in this segment. Definitely big enough to fit our coupons, guys. You know we had to do it. We brought our coupons literally like 2,500 miles out to this press drive just to see if they fit, and as you can see, they fit in there perfectly fine. Now, up top, we do have a sun visor, we have some lighting, a mirror. Then if we detach it and extend it out, you do have both of those functions.
Okay, so there we are. We made it to 60. We were going a little bit up a hill.
Yeah, that slightly
to be fair,
yes.
To be fair, we were going up a hill. Obviously, not the fastest machine out there, but in this category, you know, not everything is not fast, obviously.
Right.
And importantly, we do have more power on board than the outgoing generation, which was very, very slow. 158 horsepower, 138 pound-feet of torque now from a upgraded 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. If you remember, the outgoing generation had a 1.8-liter 4-cylinder engine, and this is going to be up 17 horsepower. So
yeah, and 11 pound-feet of torque. Yeah. So it's
decent
overall a pretty solid improvement for this all-new HRV. And I mean, you can feel that. We've been in the older HRV, the previous gen, many times, and that was pretty excruciatingly slow, to be honest with you guys. But this one is, I'd say, average for the segment. You know, it's still not going to knock your socks off or anything, but it's
right.
fine.
Right. You know, some of the competition maybe offers upgraded engine. This one's not going to do that. Or like a smaller turbo, which might have more torque, but overall the power is pretty much right in line with what those rivals offer. Okay, so that was more flat terrain, to give you guys a little bit of a more fair picture of that 0 to 60 time. It is what it is when it comes to that. Most people are, using this in the city.
Right.
You're not going to be driving full throttle like a maniac.
And I think that the thing to point out about that is it's pretty quick off the line. It slows down when you get like 40 to 60 miles an hour. But it's, around the city, you're not going to have any trouble like keeping up with traffic in this.
Right. And the other thing I want to talk about is, of course, the continuously variable transmission. So the last gen did have a CVT, but importantly with this new model, as you saw, it does have a shift simulation. Gives it a more, traditional feel. Doesn't drone as much like the old one did when you were full throttle. It just kind of, varies the RPMs, make it sound a little less strained.
Yeah. And you're also going to have standard front-wheel drive, optional all-wheel drive, and that's going to be across every single trim level. So you don't have any trim level restrictions on front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So you can get, a more basic one with all-wheel drive or a higher-end one with front-wheel drive if you don't need it. Alright guys, so I do want to talk about your ride quality for the HRV because, that is a point of big improvement for this all-new 2023 version because they have really done a lot to make this feel a lot more solid, a lot more premium. This actually is now riding on a new independent suspension, so that of course is going to help your ride quality. It feels so much more solid. That's what we were talking about, off camera here on our first little bit of this drive, is just this feels so much more solid and premium than the previous generation model. If you're coming from that, you will definitely notice a big difference, and it really does ride well for this segment. I think this has got to be one of the best riding vehicles within the entire segment, and it just soaks up the bumps. The seats are also redesigned. I feel like these are a lot more comfortable than the previous gen as well, and we'll get a sound level reading. Yeah, it looks like a speed limit hit up to 55 now, so we'll get a sound level. Looks like we're sitting at 60.7 decibels. That is a pretty good reading, I guess, for this segment of vehicle.
Better than the old model, definitely.
Definitely.
Just by listening to it. And, at the end of the day, right, this is going to be a little less premium, of course, than a CRV or above. So you are going to have less sound deadening, basically. Right,
and it is worth noting, we are not back home in Lexington. I feel like this road is a little bit rougher than the roads back home in Lexington. We're actually on a beautiful, beautiful highway here in Washington State. Gorgeous, but the road is a little bit rougher than back home. So we look forward to maybe testing this out more extensively at home and giving you that most accurate sound level reading compared to the previous gen.
So I think we're getting ready to go into the twisty bits of this drive, and I'll be able to talk to you guys about the improved driving dynamics. So of course, as you already know at this point, we've moved to a new architecture for this HRV, one that is essentially, shared with the Honda Civic, which is a great foundation. The previous generation was shared with a Honda Fit, so we do have, definitely some improvements on board in that regard. So let's kind of throw us through some corners here and test it out. Okay.
Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah, you can definitely feel some similarities to a Honda Civic. Of course, those are very great handling, and this is going to be a lot taller than that. But maybe it kind of feels a little bit like a taller Honda Civic hatchback in that regard. I really like how balanced it feels when it goes around the corners. One of the things I was noticing is a lack of body roll. That was really impressive to me. As I threw it around there pretty swiftly, things stayed pretty flat. I didn't notice much in terms of body roll. And the other thing, and this is really common through pretty much the whole Honda lineup, is really nice feeling steering. They do just a great job of giving you some nice road feel with the steering, having something that's fast and precise. You know, this is not a vehicle that is usually going to be driven in a sporty way, but when you do drive it in a sporty way, it actually feels surprisingly at home. And I think that's one of the really surprising elements here with this HRV, is just how much the driving dynamics have improved. And honestly, I think we could call that today's slam dunk, because, like I said, big improvement here, and this is certainly, in this category, one of the best feeling on the back roads here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just sitting here in the passenger seat, I can really tell the difference. It really does feel a lot more balanced and better driving dynamics than the previous gen. Honda says they've made a stronger structure, which of course plays into these a lot better driving dynamics.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm hustling it like this.
I know. Honda picked a great road for this new HRV to show it off.
It's gorgeous. We could also try out this sport mode here with the transmission and see if we can discern any difference. This is mostly going to just kind of keep the RPMs a little higher, make you feel like you have a little bit more power. Yeah, no, there's a lot of things in this segment I could not do this in. Like, I would feel unsafe hustling it along.
Really, the vast majority of the segment.
Yeah, the vast majority are things that you do not want to drive swiftly. So I do like that this can be driven like this on a back road when you're going on an adventure out in the wilderness here a little bit. But you can also have that everyday comfort out on the back road, or in the city, excuse me.
All right, though, let's go ahead and talk about some of your other elements that are going to be important to you, such as fuel economy. So like I mentioned a little bit ago, you have the option between front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. This is your only powertrain option, which means you have 2 fuel economies. The front-wheel drive is going to be rated at 26, 32, 28 miles a gallon combined. All-wheel drive is 25, 30, 27. Yes, that does mean that this has worse fuel economy than the previous generation HRV by a couple. It also puts us as one of the worst in the segment fuel economy wise. It's less than the Trailblazer, it's less than the Corolla Cross. And that's going to be today's airball. I think, yes, there are a lot of improvements for going for this new 2-liter powertrain. And I like that Honda chose that, actually. However, the fuel economy is where you pay the price, and I really strongly feel like there should be a hybrid version of this HRV. As of now, there is not a hybrid offered, and I think that that's a mistake. So hopefully Honda will add it in the future, because I think it would really benefit greatly from increased fuel economy, as well as some like battery components to give it a little bit extra power. That would be absolutely perfect for this HRV. So hopefully we'll see that added in the future, and until then, that's going to be our airball. Alrighty, and wrapping up what we need to talk about here, let's go ahead and discuss the pricing. So prices are going to rise for the all-new model by about $2,000 on every equivalent trim level. So the LX is going to start at $23,650. Sport is going to be $25,650. EXL, like today, is going to start at $27,450. And do keep in mind that's with front-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is going to be an additional charge on top of that. Now, as far as this one particularly, this is the EXL all-wheel drive, so the most expensive oh, it's a cute dog. Most expensive combination that you can get. We also have the optional paint color for $395. Destination is $1,245. This one's coming in at $30,590.
But all in all, I think Honda has really done a great job with this next generation HRV. Besides for a couple little things, this really is a great improvement over the previous generation, and they very much succeeded in making the HRV a lot more sophisticated and premium, while still maintaining a nice affordable price tag for those entry-level buyers.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us on this in-depth review of the all-new 2023 Honda HR-V. Now, of course, this is a beautiful location to test out this Honda HR-V, so we would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button down below. It helps get us to events like these where we can sample the latest cars first, so please hit that subscribe button, tell a friend, tell a family member. Also, follow us on TikTok and Instagram, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.
Crossovers remain extremely popular in the US, which is why brands are offering more sizes and move the car over.